he is ready to launch the third.
We knew there were planes, but we didn't realize that they didn't bring ground forces. And had they anticipated the success their Air Force had, they would have followed up with ground forces because Hawaii was vulnerable.
Hawaii was more than vulnerable. It was in utter chaos. On board the Japanese aircraft carrier, Commander Fushida pushes hard for the launch of the third wave. But at 1:30 p.m., Admiral Nagumo decides to call off the attack. The Japanese fleet withdraws.
One torpedo could have knocked the dry dock out and withheld repairing a lot of the battleships that was damaged. If they had torpedoed the dry dock gate, that would have been more damage almost than what they did to the battleships.
Reportedly, the Admiral called off the third wave because he was unsure of the location of the American aircraft carriers. The Japanese had scored a tremendous victory with the first two attacks. Now there was no need to risk defeat with a third. At 4:25 that afternoon, the Hawaiian governor proclaims martial law. The military now controls the island. For the Japanese Americans, it is suddenly dangerous to be identified with the country of their birth.
We were very much under surveillance. And some people, they threw all their photographs and literature and stuff, and they burned it, and so because in case the FBI,
Paranoia engulfs the island. No one knows that the enemy fleet is already heading back to Japan. Everyone is still poised for the invasion. They're sure is coming.
When I was sleeping on the floor of a barracks on Fort Island, all the guns that could still fire opened up in the harbor. So the most of us thought, like me, I guess, well, here they come. It turned out that was a couple of the airplanes from the carrier that was supposed to be in that they'd sent in to see what's going on. The poor guys got shot down. They made me feel pretty bad.
A total of 7 American planes would be shot down by friendly fire. Homes and private property are destroyed by U.S. anti-aircraft shells. America is now at war, a war she is not prepared to fight. And for Stephen Weiner, it would mean coming face to face with the enemy.
At about 10 o'clock at night, we're sitting talking and we see 2 figures approaching us from the shoreline. One was a National Guard corporal, and he was leading an Oriental. And the Oriental was nude with the exception of a loincloth. And so he turned him over to us. So we took him to the operation shack. He had been in the water for many hours. His skin was all wrinkled. And we put a blanket around him. And we gave him a hard-boiled egg and a shot of booze. And then we started to interrogate him, holding the .45 at his temple.
Through the night, 2nd Lieutenant Steve Weiner will interrogate the first Japanese prisoner of war. If Hawaii is to prepare for the onslaught to come, information will have to be forced out of the prisoner by any means necessary. The night following the Japanese attack, Hawaii is on edge. U.S. bombers from the mainland are mistakenly shot down, and Oahu has erupted in chaos. Meanwhile, Steve Weiner continues interrogating the first Japanese prisoner of war, with little luck.
He was a defiant little guy. We didn't seem to have him buffaloed at all. I would say after maybe 2 hours, he said, paper, pencil. So we gave him a manila envelope that was on the desk and a pencil. And he wrote, "I am Japanese naval officer." He wrote this in English. "My ship catch in coral. I jump into water, swim to this airplane land. Kill me in honorable way. No tell about ships." And he signed his name, Sakamaki. We kept him, I think, until about 5 or 6 in the morning, where G2 from Fort Shafter sent over for him. We gave him the document that he had signed and turned the supposed prisoner over to them.
Then on the morning of December 8th, Lieutenant Weiner makes an unusual discovery.
We saw a coning tower sticking out on the surf. It was only about a half a mile out, not even that far. There were 5 midget subs involved in a special operation. Sakamaki was to sink the Pennsylvania. His failure was because his steering gear fouled when he was released, and he drifted. He and his enlisted men attempted to swim in at night, and the body of his enlisted men washed in the next morning.
11 a.m., Monday, December 8th. Wreckage litters runways on airstrips around the island. Pearl Harbor is smoldering. While casualties mount from the attack, rescue workers continue fighting to save the 461 men still trapped inside the overturned hull of the Oklahoma.
I could still see the bottom of my ship that was left up out of the water, and wondering how many was still down in there. I heard that they cut holes in and brought some out. I didn't know who or how many.
Following several different rescue attempts, only 32 of the trapped sailors were saved. 429 men lost their lives. From the wreckage of the island, the overnight distrust of the local Japanese descended into outright racism.
In Hawaii, 50% Japanese were the majority. My folks, they came in 1906 as an immigrant, and we were laborers in a sugar plantation.
Almost immediately, Japanese Americans were rounded up by U.S. military and placed in internment camps.
You know, we were angry because it broke up our lifestyle, you know. Everybody's friendly, no racial problem there. Filipinos, Chinese, Koreans, so forth. There were about 800 person went to the camp, internment camp from Hawaii. There were like ministers and school teachers and group organizers, so forth. Everything got to hell, you know. They lost everything, big money.
As the Japanese on the island were sent to internment camps, new hardships for the rest of the islanders were just beginning.
Almost immediately was Hawaii went under martial law. There's such huge changes. Bomb shelters had to be constructed everywhere. Sandbags in front of lots of our downtown office buildings. Plate glass windows were all taped. They did trenches at a lot of schools that he'd just jump into. We used to practice if there would be a bombing, where you would go, where the shelters all were. I thought the gas masks were kind of novel and fun until you got tired of carrying them. In fact, there were rumors that the Japanese would do this as a germ warfare and they would put gases into the air.
After the war started, we had to wear gas masks. We had a complete blackout too. We had all our curtains were blacked out. We couldn't show a little sliver of light coming through a curtain. Our headlights on our cars were blacked out with a little slit, which is white, with a little shield over it. We had alerts too. You know, sirens go off. We'd have to run out, put our gas mask on, and all that sort of stuff.
When you live in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, isolated by all those miles and miles of ocean, you rely on ships to bring you everything. And now these are enemy waters, and they're going to be bringing troops. They aren't going to be thinking about bringing supplies. The part I remember the most is doing without toilet paper. You know, taking newspaper and then trying to rub it and rub it and rub it to see if you could get it soft enough.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor and the entire island of Oahu, Americans are not demoralized. They accept the situation that was forced upon them. It was now time for war. Their enemy, the Japanese. And now, a gargantuan sense of defiance lifts their desires for one united goal: payback for the surprise attack. On the morning of December 7th, 1941, American forces in Hawaii were critically unprepared for an enemy assault. In fact, commanders were